Hi, this is Janine Sews. I'm Janine, and in this video I'm going to share with you the first part of my wardrobe's basic project. Before I get started, today I am wearing a Cashmerette Kersoe top that I made up a couple of weeks ago. In my last video, I showed you a Cashmerette Kersoe top that I made out of a tropical fruit kind of fabric. And this fabric is the same brand and the same maker. This is cotton and steel rayon. And I bought this fabric shortly after we adopted our black kitty cat. And I bought it because it looked so much like him. I'm gonna pop up a picture of me wearing it with my kitty. What I like about this top is that the straps are absolutely wide enough to cover your bra straps. You don't need to pin anything or tape anything. It covers. Also, I like the way it's constructed because it has this half lining, which means that you just turn the front V-neck with the lining, which gives you a really nice V. So again, this is the Cashmerette Kersoe top, and the pattern is available in Cashmerette's Ahead of the Curve book. Wardrobe basics. I've been talking about this for the last couple of videos. I decided what I wanted for this basics wardrobe is timeless pieces. I didn't want to build a seasonal capsule wardrobe. I can do that later. For now, I have a shortage of actual basics that are not trendy, are not seasonal, that are not from a current magazine. I wanted things that would last a few years that I could make more current with accessories or other pieces. So these are true basics that I'm hoping will last me through a few seasons. I bought 4 meters of a navy midweight Ponte from Olga's Fabricland here in Calgary. So I've made 3 pieces, and I'm going to tell you about all 3 of them. So first up is the skirt. Several of you suggested that I look at Love Notions patterns, and I did. I bought the pattern for the Sybil skirt. And the Sybil skirt comes with 7 different options. All kinds of different options. I went with the A-line skirt in the midi length. And this is not your 1970s midi length. The midi length on me goes just to below my knee. But, of course, the waist of the skirt is at my natural waist, which is kind of high right now. So, depending on if I lose any weight, the midi length may be a little bit longer. But it comes to just at the top of my shins. So I made the A-line in the midi length. This is such a simple pattern. Oh my gosh. Front and back and a waistband. And they call the waistband a yoga waistband, but it's only 1.25 inches wide, or deep. So I don't think it's really a yoga waistband. I think it's just a waistband. So here is the waistband. And what's interesting about this, because this fabric has so much stretch, I did not put any elastic into this waistband. And that's one of the options. You don't have to put elastic in. So I've sized it so that it sits nicely at my natural waist. It's not too tight. But if my waist gets to be a little bit smaller, I can put some elastic in. Very simple. But this is the skirt. And of course, I'm gonna put up me wearing it, but it's super simple. All in with taping together the pattern and everything, maybe 1 hour and 3/4. So this is truly something where if it's 4:30 and you're going out for dinner that night and you decide you want a new skirt, you can make this. That easy. Of course, it helps if you have a cover stitch, but it's still super fast. So that's my skirt for my basics wardrobe is the Cashmerette it's the Love Notions Sybil skirt A-line version. So the pants. You know that I wanted to use the top-down center-out method for the pants. 2 exciting things if you want to try top-down center-out. Ruth Collins, is going to be on So Organized Style podcast. I'm putting a link down here. It's either this week or next week. So the last week of August 2022 or the first week of September, it's being published. And So Organized Style is just a sewing podcast. It's excellent. There are a couple of hundred episodes. And Maria, whose podcast it is, she's Australian, so it's organized with an S, but again, the link is down below. She's an excellent interviewer, and she talks to so many different people who come at sewing, the creative community from different directions, so it's a fascinating podcast if you haven't listened to it. But Ruth is going to be on talking about top down, center out. So you'll get way better information from her than you do from me. So you can listen to that while you're sewing, while you're going for a walk. And then also, Jennifer Stern, who is a sewing instructor, is going to do a YouTube video on top down, center out. I believe she's just going to kind of demo it and talk about it while she learns it. And I don't know exactly when that YouTube video is going to be posted, but I'm going to put a link to her YouTube channel down below. So if you're interested in getting more information and trying this yourself, I know I'm becoming an evangelist, but I really believe in this. If you're interested, you can get some information from people who are much more qualified to talk about it than I am. I'm just telling you how it works for me. Those people can talk a little bit more about why it works. So for these pants, I knew what I wanted. I wanted kind of a slim fit knit pant with an elastic waistband. So I wound up using a pattern I had in my stash, which is Butterick 6258. This is one of those coordinates patterns from like 2015, but it has these pants, which are super simple. Front and back, and then the elastic goes in and you just sew it on and flip it over to make the waistband. Now, I didn't know how this was going to work with top down, center out, but I looked at what some other people had done because you need a waistband. So I wound up creating a faux waistband that would sit at my waist, and then I used that. That's how you make it work. But before I got to that point, I made up the waistband, but then I had to alter the pant pattern first. I added 2 inches to the length because I've got a long inseam and I hate pants that are too short. And you do hem the pants while you're doing your half toile. But I also did a cashmerette wide calf adjustment because my left calf can swell up and sometimes pants just grab on it. So I didn't want that to happen with this. I wanted something that was going to fit well. So I did the wide calf adjustment. As it turns out, I probably didn't need it, but it was a good exercise, and I certainly know for other things now. So I did those 2 adjustments before I cut out my half toile. And of course, for the half toile, you add at least 2 inches at the top of the front and the back piece, and then you make the outside seam allowances 1 inch. For the fabric, I used this poly crepe, which has about the same stretch as my Ponte. And I found this at Fabricland. This is actually the piece that I used for the toile. It's this very pretty gray that I like, kind of a bluish gray. And this was in the clearance rack at Fabricland for $5.70 a meter. And I like it enough that I bought 4 meters of it because I thought, well, I can use it for half toiles, for a couple of pairs of pants, but then I think I would like to make a pair of pants out of this. I do like it, and it will go with kind of my colors. I cut out this as my toile pieces, and then I stitched them up as directed, and I went and I fitted them. And it took a little bit longer to fit these than the other pairs because these are quite close fitting. Now they're knits, but you don't want to be like squeezing yourself into your pants like you would with leggings. I wanted them to fit without stretching. So it took me maybe 3 tries where I would pin, go, look, go back, pin, look. Maybe 30 or 40 minutes to do the fitting. And then I had to come back and alter the pattern with my changes. And As I mentioned, you want to add 2 inches to the top. I wound up using all of the 2 inches plus more for the back, and I didn't use quite that much for the front. I've got pictures of how the front and the back pieces up that I'll pop up here. Interestingly, I did not need any of the extra length that I added to the pants. Now the pants are supposed to have a 32-inch inseam. I have a 32-inch inseam, and I always have problems. And I think that's because when I don't have enough fabric on my belly or my butt, everything rides up. So it kind of pulls the pants up too. Things don't hang at the crotch the way they should. So things become shorter. I've actually kind of noticed that in ready to wear too. When I put on weight, my pants that are super long are no longer super long. So I updated the pattern and then I sewed them up. Again, super duper fast. Because there are no pockets, there's no waistband, there's no nothing. So here are the pants, and of course I'm gonna show you me wearing them. This is the front of them. And you see it's just got this flipped over waistband. I used black elastic, and then it's just attached to the front and the sides. But I think these fit well. I don't think I can gain a lot of weight in them, but you know, maybe that's what I need, something I can't gain a lot of weight in. But that was the pants. And I am still an evangelist for the top-down, center-out method. But certainly something that was very different from what I made last time, the other 2 styles of pant. But good to have many options, and truly I think that I will use that pattern a lot for just kind of stretch casual pants. And I could even use, you know, if I wanted to do a fun print or something. And this pattern is simple enough that you could probably do a check or something like that. But pleased with both the skirt and the pants. But now we got to talk about the top, piece number 3. So for the top, I thought so much about what shape I wanted, and I kept going back to a couple of tops that I had from J. Jill that I really liked. Ponte tops that were body skimming, but they were relatively straight, kind of shapeless. I used to buy them maybe a little bit too small, so they kind of fitted through the bust and then would just hang from there. And then I went into my stash and I looked at this pattern 15 times. This is Vogue 1568. This is a Sandra Betsina pattern, and it's for a tunic, a knit tunic. I turned down this pattern so many times because they've got stupid fabric choices. So this is like mesh. Why am I going to make a mesh top? And this one is some kind of like shiny, shimmery harlequin with like net on the side of it. No. Then I looked at the back of the pattern, and this is what it is. This is a super simple tunic with a V-neck, this one. And it's for knits, so I decided to give it a try. Now, it's lined. That gave me a lot of pause, but when I went to Fabricland and I found that fabric for my toile for the pants, I noticed that they had navy colored knit lining fabric. So that just kind of made the decision for me. So I cut this out, of course, in the top and in the lining. I did an FBA before I did that, but otherwise I just followed the sizing that is recommended on the pattern. This pattern does not have finished garment measurements, which is kind of annoying to me because in the instructions it said look at the finished garment measurements. There are no finished garment measurements. So in the end, I wound up sewing a top that was a little bit too big. So I wound up, after it was sewn, taking a little bit off. But I've kind of jumped too far ahead because this was a lined top. And that caused, it just meant I needed extra time, because you really make this kind of like it's interlined. So you sew up the shoulders on the fashion fabric and the shoulders on the lining, and then you sew the neck so that you get this beautiful V-neck, which, you know, it's like this top. It's a V-neck that's done with a lining. So it's so crisp, and it helps that this lining fabric is almost exactly the same color. I mean, you can't even tell. Lining, fabric. But it was too big. And when it hung on the dress form, I looked at it and I thought, God, it looks like something my grandmother would wear, because it kind of fitted through the bust, and then it was just really big. So I did a bunch of unpicking, and I took it in about 3/4 of an inch on each side, and I like it much better now. So it wound up being, this is one of those garments where I probably spent 12 hours thinking about it, and it took about 4 hours to make it. But I will absolutely use this pattern again, because I really like this neck, and I like the trick of doing the lining with the knit so that you get the beautiful edge. I have a piece of fabric I bought a couple of months ago, a knit, and that's exactly the front opening I wanted to have, was the knit that was self-faced. So I'm going to do that, use this pattern for that, or at least I'm going to use that method for the opening. I have my first 3 wardrobe basics done, and I feel quite pulled together, maybe a little bit boring, but quite pulled together when I put them on. And I'm really pleased with how all 3 pieces turned out. And I'm very grateful for all of the ideas that you shared with me, because it does really help me to make decisions. I don't have a lot of people around here that I can talk to about how, you know, what should I sew? You know, I'm in a big city, but there aren't a lot of people around me who sew. So I truly enjoy being able to talk about these things with you and share ideas and get your ideas and all of your experience. So next up is to finish the 2 super easy tops for the wardrobe basics, the beige poly. So I'm going to do a t-shirt, some kind of t-shirt, something simple, something very basic, not elliptical, just very basic. And I'm going to do a tank top, and for the tank top I'm going to use Pamela's Patterns Versatile Twin Set Tank, because it covers bra straps beautifully, and it's got a nice shaped opening. That's the top that I used, put a link up here, when I made the crazy orange colored stuff that I have been wearing this summer. Then I've got the little knit that I told you about I want to work on, but the big thing that I have to sew is something for Sew Over 50 Frock Tails, which is in 3 weeks, and I have no idea what I'm going to make. I'm not going to make a party dress or anything in fancy evening fabric. I'm going to make something that I will wear. So I've kind of considered a knit dress in a solid colored fabric, or pants and a top. I've got no ideas, but I know that time is ticking, and whatever I make, it's going to take me at least, well, between finding fabric and pattern, probably 2 weeks. So I've got to get on with that right now. So that's what I'm working on next. Yeah, if you have any really great simple sew ideas that will be interesting, memorable, easy to make, hide things I want to hide, play up things I want to play up, if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are well, and I will see you again really soon.